Kevin Hart broke your stand-up box office record.
What record did he break?
He said he broke some record of your box office sales for stand-up.
I don't know. Where did he break?
Eddie Murphy just dropped a bomb. He exposed why Kevin Hart's been keeping his distance from Katt Williams, and if you've been watching closely, Katt's been throwing shots at Kevin for years. Now, Eddie's jumping in, and it's making everything way messier. So why is Kevin looking over his shoulder every time Katt's name comes up? Let's break it down. For decades, Eddie Murphy stayed out of the mess. No drama, no shady interviews, no sneak disses. But when Kevin Hart's name popped up, Eddie couldn't stay quiet anymore. In a recent interview, he spoke up, and even though he kept it cool, his words hit hard. When someone brought up Kevin supposedly smashing Eddie's stand-up box office record, Eddie didn't even blink. Instead, he hit back with a reminder. Raw is still the #1 stand-up concert film of all time, and he hasn't touched the stage in 27 years. Then he added with a smirk, "Now I gotta get back on stage because I want that record back, Kevin." It sounded like a joke, but real ones know Eddie doesn't play when it comes to legacy. So what's all this got to do with Kevin being shook of Katt Williams? Everything. Eddie Murphy, a straight-up comedy god, just questioned Kevin's top dog status, and that opened the floodgates.
We heard of a comedian that came to LA, and in his first year in LA, he had his own sitcom on network television and had his own movie called Soul Plane that he was leading. No, we've never heard of that before that person or since that person. What do you think a plant is?
Kevin's been working overtime to build this super polished, ultra commercial image. Family friendly, safe, always smiling. But when a legend like Eddie starts poking holes in that image, people start looking closer, and that's exactly where Katt comes in. Katt Williams hasn't just been throwing jabs, he's been tearing the whole system down. In multiple interviews, Katt straight up said Kevin Hart is an industry plant. According to him, Kevin didn't rise off raw talent. He got fast-tracked, protected, and pushed because he played the game, said what they told him to say, stayed quiet about the real power moves behind the scenes, and Katt didn't stop there. He dropped receipts. He even claimed that for 5 years, every role Kevin got was originally offered to him. But there was a catch. Katt said no to parts that made him play into harmful stereotypes, like the step and fetch it type roles or over-the-top uncomfortable scenes. And guess what? Once he passed, the scripts went straight to Kevin. Now mix all that with Eddie Murphy casually saying Kevin's record doesn't even count. Suddenly that shiny legacy of Kevin's don't look so flawless anymore. It's starting to look like Kevin Hart's rise wasn't just about talent, it was built on perfect timing, powerful connections, and a whole lot of silence. And maybe that's why he's keeping his distance from Katt Williams. Not because Katt's wild or out of control, but because he knows too much. Katt's seen the deals, heard the behind-the-scenes offers, and walked away from stuff Kevin might have agreed to. This isn't just about who's got the biggest shows or flashiest fame, it's about credibility. And in Hollywood, where power protects power, the last thing Kevin wants is Katt or Eddie Murphy still running their mouths. Eddie's comments about Kevin might have sounded light, but let's be real, they didn't come from nowhere. When a legend like Eddie questions your success out loud, people start rethinking what they believed. And when they do that with Kevin, it goes way deeper than just box office records.
We want to thank you. Come here. Don't sit on the bed at night. No homo. No, just don't get close to the bed. Don't get close. But it's just like, yo, we want to thank you for hosting the thing, man. It's been a pleasure. You didn't have to do it, and you did it.
No. I definitely didn't have to do it. I definitely didn't have.
Folks start asking, how did Kevin really get here? Who was helping him along the way? And what kind of behind-the-curtain deals were being made? One moment that's now getting fresh attention is a party Kevin hosted back in 2010. And this wasn't just any party, it was thrown for Diddy, and Kevin wasn't just attending, he was the main host. Years ago, nobody thought twice, just another celebrity bash, but now, footage from that night is resurfacing, and the vibe is making people uncomfortable. In one clip, Kevin's in a small bathroom with a bunch of women in bikinis. It's dimly lit, candles are burning, and things look wild. Then out of nowhere, one woman's hair catches fire, and instead of panic, Kevin and the crew laugh. No one jumps in, no one looks alarmed, it's all treated like a joke, with music blasting and cameras still rolling, but it gets even weirder. In another clip, Kevin speaks straight to the camera crew. He casually tells them not to film near a certain part of the room, right where Diddy is sitting. No explanation, no details. But when the camera swings that way for just a second, it shows a glimpse of something that instantly had the internet buzzing. People started asking the real question, why was Kevin trying so hard to keep the cameras away from that part of the room? What was going down at that party that couldn't be shown? The issue isn't about proving guilt, it's about proximity. Kevin wasn't just some random guest in the background, he was active. He planned the party, worked the room, kept the crowd hyped, he owned the night. And when things got sketchy, he laughed it off. He looked right at home in that chaos. And that's where it gets serious, especially now that new info's come out. In 2024, federal investigators dropped shocking claims about Diddy, saying he ran private freak-offs. invite-only parties where some seriously messed up stuff allegedly went down. We're talking drugs, exploitation, and more disturbing accusations from multiple lawsuits and witnesses. These weren't just wild Hollywood nights, they were part of something much darker. Now let's be clear. Kevin Hart hasn't been accused of any crimes, and no one's saying he took part in anything illegal. But the fact is, he was there, on camera, smiling, laughing.
Hey Kevin, when you hosted for Diddy, did you catch any baby oil?
When I hosted for Diddy?
Yeah. Nah?
You asking the wrong person the wrong question.
Yeah. The water was deeper though.
Came up, flame was gone. At that time, I was in panic. I had asthma. It was a difficult situation.
Right in the middle of all that out-of-pocket energy, and now that people are connecting the dots, the vibe's way off. So when Kevin dodges questions or seems nervous about certain topics, this is why the footage is out there, the dates line up, the connections are real, and when paparazzi caught up to him asking about his ties to Diddy, he didn't say a word. No denial, no explanation, nothing. And that silence? It only made people more suspicious. Because when you mix quiet with footage that looks sketchy, people start assuming the worst. Maybe that's what Eddie Murphy was hinting at when he made those sly comments. He wasn't just clowning Kevin's accomplishments, he was throwing shade at the foundation Kevin built them on. After that party footage started making rounds online, fans began digging through Kevin's old interviews and public moments, and suddenly a whole pattern came to light. While he's been sold as the squeaky clean, hustle-hard family guy, his personal past tells a way more complicated story. Back in 2013, Kevin Hart got busted in Los Angeles for driving under the influence. And it wasn't just a little slip-up. Cops said he was speeding like crazy and nearly crashed into a tanker truck. When they pulled him over, he showed clear signs of being drunk. Kevin later admitted it straight up. He'd been drinking and made a bad decision. No excuses. Then in 2017, things got even messier. Kevin had just been married to Eniku Parrish for a little over a year when a shady video popped up online. It showed him in a very sketchy situation with another woman in Vegas. But this wasn't just a cheating scandal, it turned criminal when someone allegedly tried to extort him using the footage. Kevin tried to get ahead of it by posting an apology video to his wife and kids saying, "I made a bad error in judgment." And the worst part? Eniku later revealed in a Netflix doc that she was pregnant when all this went down. Talk about heartbreak. And then, there's the heat Kevin caught in 2018 over his old jokes. Tweets and stand-up bits from the late 2000s resurfaced. Ones aimed at the LGBTQ+ community, and they didn't sit right with a lot of people. It all blew up when he was picked to host the Academy Awards. At first, Kevin refused to apologize again, saying he'd already addressed it. But the backlash kept growing, and eventually he stepped down from hosting and posted a public apology. Thing is, none of these scandals came out of nowhere, and Kevin's response always followed the same script.
The cop comes over. Cop's like, license and registration, please. So Mike go, Buck, where's the registration for the cop? You know, he's got this African accent, right? Buck go. Man, you better get the fuck out of here. Stop talking to me, Mike. I don't know this shit. I don't know nothing out, man. Just talk.
First comes denial or silence. Then, once it blows up and the pressure's too much, he finally says something. It's not just bad luck, it's a pattern. A pattern of risky choices and trying to control the story after the damage is done. And that's what really has people raising their eyebrows. Whether it's a wild party with questionable vibes or a headline-making scandal, Kevin only seems to speak up when he's cornered. It's a reactive move every time, not proactive. What makes it even more serious is the company he keeps. Kevin continues to surround himself with big-name power players who are now under heavy fire. Take Diddy, for example. He's facing major allegations tied to disturbing claims about private events and shady business dealings. And Kevin's been seen right there in the mix. Again, let's make it clear, Kevin Hart hasn't been accused of any crimes. But his name keeps popping up in convos about silence, protection, and being way too close to power. It's not always about breaking the law. It's about who you align with, when you choose to speak up and when you don't. Some of Kevin's choices look a lot more calculated than accidental. Now let's talk about Katt Williams' explosive 2024 interview on Club Shay Shay. This wasn't your typical sit-down. It was a full-on expose. Katt aired everything out about the comedy game, and guess who was right in the center of it? Kevin Hart. For Katt, the issue wasn't just about Kevin, it was about how Kevin made it to the top so fast. According to Katt, Kevin's rise didn't follow the usual grind. Most stand-up comics hit the road hard, city after city, small clubs, tough crowds. But Kevin? He seemed to leapfrog all that. Katt wasn't buying it, and he had questions. One thing that really rubbed Katt the wrong way was how Kevin's backstory was told, especially in that Netflix doc with Chris Rock. The doc paints a picture of Kevin's East Coast comedy hustle, But Katt wasn't feeling it. He straight up called out the timeline, asking how Kevin could have been grinding in New York and putting in work in Los Angeles at the same time. Katt wasn't subtle about it either. He said, so how simultaneously was he here in Los Angeles doing the same thing? Then he answered himself, it didn't happen. That's when the word plant came up. And it wasn't a joke. Katt meant it seriously. He defined a plant as someone placed into the spotlight, someone who's fast-tracked, protected, and propped up by the industry, then sold to the public like they earned every win themselves. From Katt's point of view, Kevin's rise didn't feel earned. It felt engineered. The roles, the big-budget films, the rapid-fire deals, it all happened too fast. And to Katt, it looked less like hustle and more like handouts. And he wanted answers. Now, Kevin's been hit with this kind of talk before. In a 2014 Oprah Prime interview, he was asked straight up about the myth of overnight success. But now, with Katt breaking it all down and new questions swirling, that old response might not cut it anymore. Kevin once said, Hollywood makes it all look like an overnight success, but he made sure to remind folks that he'd been grinding for 18 years. He told Oprah that he paid his dues again and again and again. And beyond just working hard, he said he'd been studying the greats, Eddie Murphy, Chris Rock, breaking down their wins and mistakes, building a blueprint for his own rise. He said his home was filled with pictures of comedy legends, daily motivation to chase that top tier.
In 15 years in Hollywood, no one in Hollywood has a memory of going to a sold-out Kevin Hart show, there being a line for him ever getting a standing ovation at any comedy club. He already had his deals when he got here. Have we heard of a comedian that came to LA and in his first year in LA, he had his own sitcom on network television and had his own movie called Soul Plane that he was leading? No.
What separates me is my drive, Kevin told Oprah. My drive is other people's success. But for Katt Williams, that wasn't the issue. Katt never denied Kevin worked hard. His problem was with how Kevin skipped the grind that most comics can't avoid, no matter how driven they are. As more people started raising eyebrows about how Kevin climbed so fast, Katt didn't hold back. He leveled up the conversation. This wasn't just about Kevin anymore. Katt called out the whole system. He tore into the idea that Hollywood rewards talent fairly. In his eyes, there are real gatekeepers pulling strings, and Kevin Hart, he claimed, had become one of them. To make his point, Katt brought up Kevin's connection to Tiffany Haddish. Now, everyone knows Tiffany from Girls Trip and her Saturday Night Live hosting moment, but her journey wasn't all red carpets and big roles. She's spoken openly about struggling, being homeless, living in her car, just trying to make it. In a 2018 Vanity Fair interview, Tiffany shared how Kevin helped her during one of those dark moments. They were both performing at the Laugh Factory when Kevin found out she was sleeping in her car. Without hesitation, he gave her $300 and told her to get a room for the night. But he didn't stop there. He told her to sit down, write out her goals, and chase them one by one. Tiffany took it to heart. She booked a motel, wrote out her dreams, listed who she wanted to work with, what roles she aimed for, and made it happen. It's a touching story on the surface, but Katt saw it differently. To him, it wasn't just generosity, it was proof of how deep Kevin's ties ran inside the Hollywood system. But Katt Williams wasn't buying the fairy tale version of Tiffany Haddish's rise to the top. During his fiery appearance on V103's Frank and Wanda in the Morning, he came straight for her crown. Katt questioned if Tiffany really earned her status as a top comedian, or if it was all handed to her for the image Hollywood wanted.
Tell you that there's no gatekeepers, but we keep seeing the same people open the gate. Didn't Kevin open the gate and let Tiffany in? Ain't he now opening it up for...
Forever been the humble guy. I have time to not be humble today. I have time to fact check everything he said because the world of Katt Williams is a fictional world.
Haddish been doing comedy since she was 16, he said, but you can't name your favorite Tiffany Haddish joke. Then he hit the crowd with a real one. Why? 'Cause she ain't done a tour yet. No special. He wasn't just calling out her work ethic. He questioned if she even wrote her own material, if she could hold a crowd for an hour, and whether the industry fast-tracked her before she was ready. Katt didn't stop there. He kept the pressure on. They already downed Monique and boosted someone just because of Girls Trip. Then he asked, you think she wrote Girls Trip, goofball? Or you think that was already a script they just handed her? He was throwing fire and shade. Host Wanda Smith tried to defend Tiffany, saying people loved her because she was real. But Katt clapped back instantly. Since when did being real become a marketable product? He even took it further, saying her buzz might have been boosted by her openness about liking white men, especially Brad Pitt. According to Katt, that kind of talk helped her move through a system still run by old-school power players. Then he hit a nerve, calling out the fact that other black female comedians who've been grinding for decades are still invisible to the industry. Luenell, Miss Laura, Melanie Camarco, he said. These women put in work, but you don't see Hollywood lining up for them. Kevin Hart didn't stay quiet after that. It was game on. He pulled up to the Breakfast Club with Tiffany right beside him and came out swinging. You had the shot, Kevin told Katt. You were set up to be the star, but you didn't show up to work. Kevin didn't hold back. He said Katt skipped out on promo shoots, missed big chances, and turned into a liability. You became a risk, Kevin said. Then he flipped the whole thing, accusing Katt of dragging down someone else's success instead of owning up to why his own career fell off track. So what made Katt Williams' criticism hit different this time? It wasn't just about throwing shade or name-dropping, it was how specific he got. Katt broke down the actual movie roles, the behind-the-scenes deals, and why he walked away from them. He claimed that for 5 years straight, almost every big comedy film Kevin Hart starred in was first offered to him. Katt said he turned them down on purpose. Why? Because he didn't like the scripts. He felt they leaned too heavy on old-school stereotypes or included what he called overtly homosexual humor that didn't sit right with him. I'm not against comedy, Katt said, but I'm not going to take shortcuts. I'm not going to play something I don't believe in just to get ahead. According to Katt, when he asked for changes or tried to push back on the scripts, Hollywood ignored him. Instead of listening, they just handed the role straight to Kevin, who took it as is. And that moment, Katt said, was the start of something bigger. It connected to a conversation he'd been having for years. The idea that some black male actors get pressured to wear dresses for laughs, almost like it's a rite of passage to make it. It's not a new theory. Dave Chappelle even spoke on it before, and Katt brought it up again while doing promo for Scary Movie 5. At that same time, Kevin had just done a sketch on Saturday Night Live, wearing a dress. For Kevin, it was just a comedy bit, nothing more. But for Katt, that moment stood for way more. It wasn't the dress itself. It was what it represented, going along with what the industry expects, even when it pushes harmful or played-out stereotypes. And that, according to Katt, is the real line between him and Kevin. Katt says he got pushed out because he refused to play the game. He didn't take the roles, he didn't stay silent, and because of that, the industry left him behind. Kevin Hart, though, he doesn't see it that way, not at all. To him, it's about opportunity, hard work, and hustle. But to Katt, it's about choices and who really controls the path to success.
You know what? I was actually one of those comedians that said, nah, I wouldn't wear a dress. There's no way.
Dave Chappelle and I said that they tried to make him wear a dress.
You have to have boundaries. You have to have limits that you refuse to cross. I know what they are. You got to know that you're a brand. You need to protect your brand at all times.
And then when proposed with the opportunity of what I felt was funny, nobody made Martin put on a dress and nobody made Tyler Perry. It was a choice that
Kevin sees himself as the guy who played his cards right, took every shot seriously, and hustled hard to flip small breaks into a massive platform. But while he's telling that version of the story, Katt Williams ain't the only one throwing shade. Monique recently came forward with her own bombshells, calling out how Kevin supposedly ghosted her when she was catching heat from the big dogs like Oprah Winfrey and Tyler Perry. And if that doesn't make you raise an eyebrow, it gets deeper. Word is, Kevin's been real cozy with both Oprah and Tyler Perry, especially during the times he was leveling up in Hollywood. It's got folks wondering if he was working the politics behind the scenes to secure his spot. Rewind to an episode of Kevin's Comedy Goldmines podcast back in 2021. He had Monique on as a guest, and things got real personal. They talked about her journey in comedy, how she came up, and the rocky road she's been on since. Now, if you followed Monique, you already know she's had serious beef with Oprah and Tyler Perry for years. We'll break that down in a bit, so stay locked in. During that interview, Monique didn't hold back. She opened up about how hard it got for her and her family, feeling like they were backed into a corner. Kevin responded like a true friend, at least on camera. He told her she was like family to him. You're a mother, an aunt, a sister, he said, all rolled into one. But Kevin didn't stop at just sweet words. He offered to help. He admitted he didn't know Oprah personally, but he did have a line to Tyler Perry. And to his credit, he followed through. He reached out to Tyler directly. After having what he described as a deep, meaningful convo with Perry, Kevin came back to Monique with what sounded like good news. Tyler was ready to squash the drama and move forward. Kevin, playing the peacekeeper, urged Monique to do the same. He told her, let's leave that negativity in the rear view, Mo. We've got bigger things to build together. But that wasn't the end of it. Kevin's generosity didn't stop there, or at least that's what the narrative was at the time. In her sit-down with Shannon Sharpe, Monique dropped even more tea, this time about how deep Kevin Hart's promises really went.
Hear me, Kevin Hart. Let's move past that, Mo. Let's do some great things together. Don't even worry about it. Whatever y'all want to do, I will partner with you. I'll executive produce with you. You just let me know what you want to do. It's a miscommunication, and we're going to talk Tuesday. Don't worry about it. I'm telling you right now, it's a miscommunication. That was 2 years ago. If you talk to him, I talk to him. I've never talked back to Kevin Hart.
She said he didn't just offer emotional support, he put business on the table. According to Monique, Kevin straight up told her, "Mo, I talked to Tyler. He don't want to reopen that drama. But forget that. Let's move forward. Whatever you want to do, I'll partner with you. I'll executive produce it. You just let me know." That's not all. Monique said Kevin even came through with cash, a serious amount too. And she made it clear, she paid him back with interest. On paper, it was looking like Kevin had her back for real. But then, here's where the whole thing flips. Kevin had promised to help her get her talk show back off the ground. Monique was hyped. Having someone like Kevin Hart on board as a producer, that's game-changing. So she told her team over at Endemol, the media company behind the show, and they were all in. Everyone was buzzing. This could have been the comeback of the decade. And then, out of nowhere, plot twist. Just 2 weeks later, Monique gets hit with a bombshell. Endemol tells her that Kevin Hart's manager, Dave Becky, reached out and said, "Kevin's got cold feet." Cold feet? After all that? So Monique does what anyone would do. She picks up the phone and calls Kevin, expecting some kind of explanation. But instead of clarity, she gets hit with a vague brush-off. "We'll talk Tuesday. Don't worry about it." Well, Tuesday came and went. So did the next week, then the next month. And now, 2 years later, still crickets. No call, no follow-up, no partnership, nothing but silence. And for someone who once called her family, that silence said everything. Monique hasn't heard a single word from Kevin Hart since, and trust, fans are not letting it slide. The internet detectives came out in full force, piecing it all together and throwing out theories. Some are saying what a lot of people are thinking, maybe Kevin never really planned to help Monique at all. That whole "I got you, Mo" talk might have just been for show. Then came the wild rumors, ones that just won't die. Whispers about Kevin supposedly selling out to powerful names like Oprah and Tyler Perry. The theory? If Kevin had actually stepped up to help Monique bring her talk show back, it could have messed up his bag. Some even believe he chose to protect his spot in the game rather than risk clashing with the Hollywood elite. No matter how you slice it, one thing's clear, Eddie Murphy flipped the table. When a comedy icon like Eddie publicly questions your success, that's not just criticism, it's a green light for everyone else to start asking questions too. It's like the floodgates opened. And let's be real, once you lose respect from legends like Eddie, no box office record, no viral moment, no millions of Instagram followers can buy that respect back. And now Kevin's whole image is up for debate. Was it all hustle or was it carefully managed from the jump? Folks are no longer just looking at the laughs, they're digging into the legacy. Anyway, that's the full scoop for now. Catch y'all next time.